Morning, here is the news at 10. First, the highlights. Governor Sanwo-Olu to address Lagos residents today in media chat. Federal government restates commitment to implement agreement with Labour. On the foreign scene, armed groups agreed to leave Libya's capital, Tripoli, after over 1 decade. And sport, Nigeria's male senior basketball team withdraws from 2025 AfroBasket qualifiers due to lack of funds. Now the details. I am Dele Agadumo. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu will address Lagosians this morning in a media chat. Governor Sanwo-Olu during the chat, which will commence at 11:15, will be answering questions from frontline journalists from Lagos Television, Channels Television, Arise and TVC on plans for residents in this challenging period and the journey to a greater Lagos in food security, the environment, health, physical planning, infrastructure, among others. The interaction will also be aired live on Lagos Traffic Radio 96.1 FM, Echo 89.7 FM, and some other radio stations. In a statement, the State Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Benga Motosho, said the governor will also announce some key policies on the welfare of all Lagosians. Motosho added that on the 25th of January, Governor Sanwo-Olu held a town hall meeting in the Lagos West Senatorial District of the state. The Lagos State Government has inaugurated the 5th Assembly of the Lagos State Youth Parliament with a promise that more resources and efforts will be channeled towards youth-oriented programs. Speaking during the inauguration held at the Lateef Jakonde Chamber of the Lagos State House of Assembly, the Commissioner for Youth and Social Development, Mobolaji Ogunlende, identified youth engagement as one of the focal areas captured under the developmental pillars of the present administration. He said the intention behind the Youth Parliament is to prepare youth for leadership positions, adding that this is the bedrock of democratic process which the state is building. On her part, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Youth and Social Development, Toyin Okeosoitolu, implored the new Assembly members to live up to expectations by effectively utilizing the platform offered them through the Youth Assembly to initiate programs that will transform the youth. In a bid to address the current high costs of food items in Lagos, the Lagos State Government has expressed its readiness to support about 5,000 farmers with agric inputs, lands for cultivation, and funds where necessary. The State Commissioner for Agriculture, Abisola Olusoya, announced these measures during a strategic round of meetings with the leadership of the Maltov International Market and Farmers Association in Alausa, Ikeja. Olusoya said the aim of the meeting was for the government to provide an enabling environment to boost farming in order to regulate the prices traders will sell food items to residents at the markets at affordable prices. She noted that the government over the years has been supporting farmers with farm inputs and funds, adding that they are looking into allocating lands to farmers in Itoiki, Inekwe, and Badagry, where they will have access to enough water for use. The Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps says it shot no fewer than 66 private guard companies operating legally without license or expired license in the country. The NSCDC says the illegal firms were shot in 2023, adding that it also received 125 applications from prospective private guard companies, PGCs, in 2023. Spokesperson for the NSCDC, Babawale Afolabi, who decried the proliferation of unregistered and unlicensed PGCs, said the monitoring and enforcement exercise across the country will be sustained with the help of the Association of Licensed Private Security Practitioners of Nigeria to fish out illegal operators. The federal government says it intends to review the ban on alcoholic beverages packaged in sachets and PET bottles that are smaller than 200 milliliters. Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Ali Pate stated this while addressing members of the Food, Beverage and Tobacco Senior Staff Association, FOBTOB, during a peaceful protest citing the hardship the ban has caused to their livelihoods. Appealing to the aggrieved group, the minister, who was represented by the Permanent Secretary, Kachalom Daju, promised to look into the complaints and find a better option going forward. It will be recalled that at the end of January, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, implemented a ban on alcoholic beverages in sachets and PET bottles smaller than 200 milliliters, citing the adverse socio-economic impact of such packaging on the nation's future. And now to the rest of the stories. The federal government says it is committed to implementing the agreements it entered with organized labor on the general welfare of workers and other issues. Director, Information, Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Segun Imohiose, in a statement said the federal government reviewed the commitments made with organized labor at a meeting attended by the Minister of State, Labor and Employment, and Keruka Onyejocha and other dignitaries. Imohiose said substantial progress had been made in the agreement, including the payment of 4 months from the 6-month wage award promised to the organized labor. He said the federal government had also inaugurated a 37-member minimum wage committee to review and come up with an acceptable and sustainable minimum wage for Nigerian workers. Imohiose said the government had so far made substantial financial commitments to the provision of CNG buses and conversion kits, adding that the buses would be rolled out in no time to alleviate the transportation challenges being faced by Nigerians. The Senate has kicked against plans by the Ministry of Power to approve the Senate has kicked against plans by the Ministry of Power to approve the proposed hikes in electricity tariff by distribution companies. The Senate also rejected plans to remove electricity subsidies given the present hardships in the country, calling on the government to step down the idea of an increase in electricity tariff. The upper chamber also directed the Committee on Power to investigate the 2 trillion naira required for electricity subsidy payment, other debts owed in the sector, and the state of metering in the country. The resolution of the Senate followed its consideration and approval of a motion moved by Aminu Abbas during plenary on the need to retain subsidy on electricity in the country for the foreseeable future. Last week, the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, said Nigeria was not likely to sustain the current electricity subsidy payment, explaining that the indebtedness of the country's power sector to electricity generating companies and gas companies had risen to over 3 trillion naira. Now to foreign news. Armed groups that have been controlling Tripoli for more than a decade have agreed to leave Libya's capital. Interior Minister Imad Trabelsi, part of the internationally recognized government, said after lengthy negotiations, a deal had been struck for regular forces to police Tripoli. He said there would only be emergency police, city officers and criminal investigators in their place. The deal comes after a series of deadly clashes in the city in recent months. Libya has been battered by many armed groups who emerged after the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. A series of armed uprisings that led to the long-time dictator's killing created a security vacuum, with much of the country lawless and chaotic since. Libya is currently divided between the internationally recognized government in the west, led by interim Prime Minister Abdulhamid Debeba in Tripoli, and an administration in the east run by military strongman Khalifa Haftar. In our sports, Nigeria's senior men's national basketball team, the Tigers, has withdrawn from the AfroBasket 2025 qualifiers due to lockdowns. The team's withdrawal was confirmed on D Tigers' X handle. D Tigers have been drawn in Group B with Uganda, Cape Verde and Libya in the first window of the qualifiers, which will be held in Tunisia. The Nigerian team is scheduled to begin the qualifiers on Saturday, February 23, against Libya. The AfroBasket 2025 qualification will be played from February to November 2024 to determine the 16 nations who will qualify for the FIBA AfroBasket 2025. Nigeria has won the AfroBasket only once, which was in 2015. And that ends our news at 10. Just before we go, ensure the registration mark on your vehicle is clear and visible at all times. You can follow us and like all our various social media platforms: X, formerly Twitter, Lagos Traffic 961, Instagram, Lagos Traffic Radio 961. Watch us live on Facebook, Lagos Traffic Radio 96.1 FM. On YouTube, subscribe and watch all our previous programs and news on our channel, Traffic Radio 961. Did you know that the Sanwo-Olu administration trained 280 unemployed youths for global certification on solar farm construction technology for the supply of electricity in Nigeria? You can get more details on the Lagos State Government website. To end the news, try the highlights of the major stories. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu will address Lagosians this morning in a media chat. The federal government said it is committed to implementing the agreements it entered with organized labor on the general welfare of workers and other issues. We also told you that armed groups that have been controlling Tripoli for more than a decade have agreed to leave Libya's capital. And in sport, Nigeria's senior men's national basketball team, D Tigers, has withdrawn from the AfroBasket 2025 qualifiers due to lack of funds. For contact with the newsroom, send a message to Lagos Traffic Radio at lagostate.gov.ng. That ends the news broadcast compiled by Abiola Fabulagun. I'm Dele Agadumo. Good morning. Thank you for listening.